Communications Minister. All right. First, let's hear what he said.
SIM registration or re-registration that Ghanaians were put through about 3 years ago or 2 years ago did no verification on the back end. There was no single source of truth to verify against. And so yes, biometrics were taken, but they were not matched against anything. And that's why today you have SIM cards that are registered to people's Ghana cards that the people themselves did not register. That's why today, even though there was a limit of 10 cards per Ghana card, there are instances where one Ghana card has been used to register over 30 cards because there was no matching. Many people have, and there was an instance, law enforcement instance that I encountered in my very first week. We're working with the then Cybersecurity Director General. We identified a number, saw the Ghana, did a cross-referencing with the number, the Ghana card that was used to register the card, geolocated the person, security did an operation, but it became immediately clear that the individual whose Ghana card, who we had picked up on the back of his Ghana card, was not the same person as the person who was using the same card. And that's simply because you have unscrupulous people who registered pre-registered SIM cards using people's Ghana cards. You go and you try to register and then they tell you, oh, the network is down. It didn't go through, but they had registered a SIM card. And then they take your card again and do another registration. And then they begin to sell those pre-registered SIM cards. And so you will be an innocent person sitting down, and because your Ghana card had been used to pre-register a SIM card that was used in fraud, you'll be picked up. So people may think that, oh, but we went through the hassle. Yes, and I appreciate it. I was Christian Stubborn Academy because I opposed the registration process because we questioned the technical basis of doing what was being done. And that's why I make a solemn pledge to you that you will not have to queue. You will not have to go and leave work for a day or two to get your SIM registered. There's a whole simple technical process behind it. It will be interactive. It will engage you. The regulator has seen the demo of it and how it works. We are very clear in our minds what we're going to do. Because if you've submitted your biometrics to the NIA, and the NIA has captured your biometrics, it's a simple opportunity for us to match what MTN or Telecel or AT holds against a certain number and cross-reference and send you a prompt to confirm if that number was really registered by you. So if someone has registered with your Ghana card without your knowledge and that number is brought to your attention and you indicate that that is not your number, we blacklist it. If it is your number and the biometrics match, we whitelist your number and you get a prompt letting you know that your identity has been verified. But we will go a step further to now do what we call the Central Equipment Identity Register. Now that is a registration not of your SIM, but of your phones. Every phone has an IMEI number, which is global and is a unique identifier, it's a fingerprint of your phone. And so we're also going to be sending you prompts to do the registration of your phone.
All right, this is what we've learned, and we need to figure it out a bit further, ask some questions, see how it'll all unfold. Maximo Sametogo joins us. He's a technology consultant. He's speaking to us alongside Selom Brantier, who's the Vice President of Imani Africa. Gentlemen, good morning to you both.
Good morning.
All right, it's great to have you. And I mean, you're both, leaders in this technological space. So, and Selom in particular, I remember that you had a lot to say about the earlier registration exercises. You raised a bunch of questions about them. How does Sam George's plan sound to you?
I also was, I also just first heard of it, I think at dawn this morning. And I was the first thing, Magnus actually hinted me about something like that, I think, a couple of days ago. And I first heard some George speak about it this morning. And, well, it's for me, we have done the same registration several times over the last 10 years. And each one was an iteration of various failures over how to really keep our data and use it meaningfully. Some of us were very, very opposed to the last one because it was completely flawed in the way it was designed, the way it was approached, the way it was executed. And the fact that that particular SIM registration did not have anything to do directly with the NI database, as in terminating with the NI database or having people verify information from the NI database, made it very moot. And for some of us, we thought it was just an exercise, rightly so. We thought that it was an exercise just to, line some people's pockets in the name of trying to do a national exercise. And I still stand by that. So we definitely need a very credible SIM register. Because the main reason why the last SIM registration was done, the objective was not achieved, because cyber security fraud or cyber fraud through SIM card fraud, etc., still exists today. We are all, aware of the fact that people are always calling and scamming people and all of that, and it has become a very big issue today. But let's look at what is being proposed. I actually had a chance to call the minister to clarify, because I wanted to also know the reasoning behind this new one, this new proposed SIM registration. And from what I have gathered, it is going to be mostly an interactive process that will, first of all, seek to align the databases. So what is on your NIA database is going to be synchronized with what is the existing data. So for most people who have done their SIM registration, there might not be the need for anybody to visit any center unless there are discrepancies in your data on the SIM card, and then the data on your national ID. So whereas in the previous instance, the biometrics were taken, but they were not really tied to. I remember we were taking pictures of our hands or our thumbs or something and putting in a database. And that thing, all of us knew that was a very useless exercise in trying to capture any biometrics, because I could take anybody's finger, I could capture anybody's thumb or finger and then put it there and say that was mine. So this is not about that, but this is mostly more about synchronizing the databases. The NIA database is being made open and accessible to the SIM database. So if my number is 024123123, then they are going to check and see whether the details on the SIM match the details on the your national ID, so that it can be synchronized, and then you would know that, okay, so this is really the person that he says he is. I believe that whilst we are yet to see how to be implemented in full, I believe that this will be a probably more humane approach than the one we had before, where we were all forced to go and queue and go through all of that rigmarole. I believe that in this particular instance, the main essence of having a credible database that identifies us as individuals with our SIM card or our phone numbers, this probably is a better step. They have the benefit of hindsight to be able to develop a system that is not intrusive, that's not going to force all of us to go to the telco operators' offices to go and queue needlessly for hours. If that is what is going to be done, some of us are really in favor of that, because then it will really be able to zero down on those who are using SIM cards for nefarious purposes, and then the security agencies will be able to execute their activities better and know that people cannot use their numbers or phone numbers to engage in fraudulent activity, which has been the case throughout. And so for some of us, we just want clarity in the databases that run our things. Whether it's national ID, whether it is driver's license, whether it is passports, we should have that ability to synchronize our personal data such that if we have the national ID being the one-stop shop, let it be that one-stop shop and do what it's supposed to do without all the other encumbrances or things that dance around it, where everybody gets up and does something new the next day, and it's what do you call it, which becomes a waste of taxpayers' money.
So
I also do know that in this particular case, we are also, or I've been told, that there'll be things like a liveliness test, where you can use your phone to check whether you're a human being or not, where your phone camera, you turn left and right and those kinds of things, just to know that you are truly who you say you are. And I believe that if you can do that on your phone at your own convenience, that is way better than having to walk into a shop and queue just to have your biometrics taken.
all right. If I'm right, your understanding of this new exercise is that it's really a sort of a validation of people's data against the national identification data.
Yes.
Okay.
For all intents and purposes, that is the main aim.
Right. So anybody who currently has registered a SIM using whatever national ID information, that will be validated. Whether indeed that information is accurate or not, whether indeed that person used the correct national ID data to register the SIM, that is what will be validated.
Yes. That is what I understand is going to be done.
So how is that an
that
improvement
validation
on the
is going to
system?
be done on, with the computer systems.
Right.
And then if there are discrepancies, then you will be contacted to be able to fix those discrepancies.
What sort
But
of
most of the process will be done
discrepancies?
online.
What sort of discrepancies could there be? If, for example, I have registered a SIM to a national ID that is not mine, and you come and you ask me to validate that process, and I just re-enter the same information, what discrepancy could there be?
So I believe that these are some of the questions that we should put to the minister directly, because there are instances where people did SIM registrations for other people, and yet these people are not using. So, for example, if you registered a SIM on my behalf, and I am using the SIM card right now, everything I do is in your name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And therefore, if I go and do something criminal, they will track it to you. And that is what I believe is one of the biggest problems with the current situation as it is. However, I think where we would need to really check out if some of these things can be well done is whether maybe a USSD prompt can be sent to you, for example, and then you say that, are you what do you call it, Kojo Youngson, or are you Winston Amwa, or are you Maximus? Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. Things like that. So I believe that would help drill down some of the issues. But as to how they will address problems like this is what the minister needs to come and explain, I believe.
Right. Okay. Maximus, let me bring you in on this. I mean, what the minister is describing is certainly a more painless option than what we've been through in the past. If indeed this can be done without queues, would you consider that to be an improvement on the situation?
Yeah, so long as it gives the subscriber the convenience and the comfort and doesn't create another inconvenience. The issue is that you are trying to give the people the opportunity to verify themselves against your platform. And of course, you have issues with that. Are you going to run the software on a feature phone or a smartphone, a combination of those two different technologies? So for me, when it comes to the SIM registration, we have two things, verification and authentication. Now, government, you are supposed to have the database of all people who are supposed to be Ghanaians in a database. And then there was also a registration which was supposed to have been done, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, you know. So you have the database. What you need to do is make sure you verify the data that Maximus has provided, the data that Kojo has provided, to see if it's really Maximus or Kojo. Then the next level is authentication, making sure it's really Kojo or it's really Maximus. So that's why you let the database communicate with other data sets So my passport, my driver's license, my bank account and all that. So for me, if those designs are considered, then it should be fine. But if not, we will just go through the same process of, people trying to authenticate their own identity when government should be doing that. If for example, when we're registering the Ghana card, I entered my name, date of birth, and all that with my phone numbers. Now you told me to use my numbers to register my numbers to verify my identity again. That was the re-registration that we did. Now you are coming back again to tell us, okay, we are going to design a technology that will help you verify and authenticate your identity again as a Ghanaian. For me, as a telecom service user, government is just wasting my time and giving me a lot of inconvenience when this thing could have been done long ago and should have been suggested long ago, and we will not go through that same process. And could you, if I even find a SIM card on the floor or somebody steals somebody's SIM card, they can use it for the same fraud that we are trying to cure. That issue hasn't been dealt with. How do we cure fraud using SIM card? It's not going to be 100%. I'm not sure it's going to be 60%, because the fraudsters, what they do now, there's a prevalence of WhatsApp scam going on where people use WhatsApp numbers to communicate with other people's contacts to solicit for funds for them as if they were the ones doing it. And then they'll give you a SIM card, a phone number that is registered with somebody's name that you terminate the payment on, and then the telcos they will tell you it terminates on an app. If you terminate on an app, you can't find the person whose name is on the ID card. Then how do you find the fraud? So there's a whole lot of process to go through trying to fight fraud than just verifying and re-registering Ghanaians all over again and going through the whole process. You have the database of people with ID cards. You have the database of people who have been registered previously. So run it through a system and do your verification just like the way other platforms do. If I send my data to Facebook for verification, they do all the authentication and all that to make sure I'm really Maximus and the information I provided is valid, and they give me a tick on my account. So why should I go through a process all over again?
Right. So it sounds to me like you're suggesting that the process is unnecessary.
Yes, it's unnecessary, because if you have my database and you can authenticate and verify my database, you already have it. So just the other citizens who have not been verified, I'm sure the telcos can give you an idea as to the numbers that have not been verified, and government should have that database. So you do the verification of those people, for authentication of those people. That is all you need to do. But trying to go through the whole process again, and then from what Salam said, I have to use my phone to take a face ID, and it goes through the same system again. Does it also have a real-time verification to tell me whether the picture I'm sending through my account is the same Maximus that the system can authenticate and verify? So it's difficult to believe that. It's difficult to even wrap your mind around how the technology is going to work. When we took pictures of our fingertips, and the thing generated fingerprints into the system. You already have all these raw data that you can use a software to run the whole thing, clean up the system, and then there we go. We don't need to go do any re-registration, either using a software, a short code, and I don't know how you run it using USSD. If I'm in a village somewhere without internet connection, and then without a smartphone, how do I authenticate or verify my data? So they should explain the technology better, then some of us can appreciate it.
Well, I mean, Maximus, the truth is that in spite of the fact we've done this so many times and, gone through the inconvenience over and over again, we still don't have a reliable system. It's still not possible to absolutely and certainly trace people to their SIMs. People can still commit crimes in other people's names. The system is not fit for purpose. So, I mean, should we not just keep trying until we get it right?
How many times will we keep trying? This is technology, because we did the first one, 2010, 2011, and then the minister was even against the fact that we needed to use only. In fact, then we use voters' ID and other forms of IDs to do that. Then the next one is supposed to just be a Ghana card, because now you can identify Ghanaians just using a one database system. Now we are going to re-register people again against the same system. So I don't know what really we are going to cure, because people, sometimes you can even identify people by finding them. If I generate an address anywhere, how do you validate that? Because the verification is also very important, that the information I provided is really my house number. If you don't have a database of that, how do you cross-check and all that and make sure that my house number that I provided is the actual one? And if I even move to a different location, how do you know that I've even moved from my previous location for you to be able to trace me if I commit a crime? So it's not just the registration of the SIM card, it's the data that is the most important.
Salam, I wonder how you react to that. You know, this idea that, well, it's just, this is really just a confirmation of data that we already don't trust. And so it's not going to improve the integrity of the information. What do you say? Do we have Salam Brantier on the line? All right. Our apologies. I think we may have lost.
Yeah.
Hello?
So I mean, Maximus raises a lot of legitimate concerns, which I believe that all stakeholders are also looking at. The major thing is this: we have data points in various silos. When I say silos, we have previously had this thing where in Ghana, one database does not speak to another database because of whatever vested interest exists. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for example, the last SIM registration that was done, even though it was mandatory that we use the Ghana card for that SIM registration, the truth was that that data that was collected wasn't married to the Ghana card database. It wasn't done. So, even before you try to get to know somebody's whether somebody moved or not, the truth is that there was not even a basis to verify the information that was given for the SIM registration, because that database was not connected or synchronized to the Ghana card database, which we have all now, I think, agreed or seek to agree that should be the first or most primary source of identity as a Ghanaian, right? So if that is the case, the first thing that needs to be done is to, from first principle, marry that SIM registration database with the Ghana card database, so that at least as much authentic data as possible can be gathered from synchronizing the two, so that the first point of error in terms of, okay, is this person really is this SIM holder really who they say they are? That first point of error is what you call it, is corrected, and then it's verified. Then we can go to all the discrepancies that exist and then work on that. For me, I believe that, and what we were advocating was that the way in which the previous one was done was such that it was a standalone kind of system that did not connect with any other system. So that whole operation was smooth because it was its own thing that didn't talk to anything else. And for whatever reason, there were very huge data protection, issues with that one. But in this particular instance, we are actually connecting it to the National Identity Database. And that, for me, is one of the first things that we need to do in order to have that system where our data is not just gathered, but is also verified to some point. Because you can collect as much data as you want, but if you cannot point the data to other pieces of data, it becomes meaningless. Now that we are beginning to do all of that, then other methods can come from where we can now begin to say that, okay, if this data synchronizes with this data, and Salam Brantier's SIM card data is married to his national ID data, then my driver's license can easily be married to it, because then for me, if I go and if I want a new driver's license, for example, and I mention my phone number, they can easily say that, oh, you are really the same person you are. Now you can't, because of the so many discrepancies involved. So if you can eliminate that aspect of it, then all the other new ones that come, we can go into the authentication phase or the another additional verification phase, as Maximus is saying. The other thing is that, of course, there's a reliance on online technology, which is a limitation for a lot of people, especially in the more rural areas and areas where you do not have like network and all of that. And those are large swathes of the country, especially in the more less populated areas. It will be up to the minister to come up with whatever mode in which he is going to be work to address that. And I believe that we should wait and see what he has in terms of that, so that we can critique it or we can add to it in terms of what solutions exist. Because all of us believe in one thing, that we need to have verifiable data and reliable data, because a lot of services and a lot of activities, from fintech to agri-tech to creation of jobs, etc., rely on sturdy data systems that are not prone to compromise or are easily sidestepped, because then we can only create an ecosystem for fraud to thrive if we do not begin to marry a lot of these databases. And it is not, for me, I don't believe that it is a single day approach, but it is a multiplicity of various interventions that are progressive, that are iterative, that will allow us to achieve that.
All right. So, if all right, normally, Maximus, you have a reaction. Give me a moment. Let me just check one thing with Selom. Because Selom, you say you've spoken to the minister. Normally, with exercises like this, there is a private player, someone brought in, to either create software or, do some legwork. Who are the private players on this one?
Unfortunately, I didn't have the chance to probe into that. But I would make further inquiries on that, because we all need to have that transparency about it, because some of us also advocated against the private players involved in the previous one because of the methodology that was used and the fact that we were not very comfortable with how our data was going to be handled by this private entity.
Right.
So those are further things. Like I said, it's Winston who drew my attention to it this morning when you was talking to me about some of the latest news upcoming.
I mean, you did say that you had spoken to the minister about it before, right?
And did
it come up? Did you ask him?
But not about the private player,
all right,
which I'm going to work on.
Okay, thank you. Maximus, you had a reaction.
Yes, the previous one, I think I heard Professor Atefa on your show, or I think on J or one of the stations, saying that over 24 million, ID system has been linked into the Ghana card already. So your driver's license, passport, even your voter's ID, your bank account, all those things have been already done. So I don't know how they are going to use the same database to verify us again. So I have to sit at home and then you send me a prompt. Whether I'm the one or not, you cannot tell. You are depending on me as a subscriber to give you a valid information when you have all these databases that you can put together, and then correct all the errors in it. If there are some inconsistencies, then you can talk to me or look for me to make sure I provide the right information. So if we hear SIM re-registration, some are saying it's just verification, it's not SIM registration. So we don't really get what exactly the issue is. But for me, the technology will tell whether what they want to do will cure the problem of fraud and cyber crime, because there are a lot of technologies coming up that you don't even need a SIM card to make a phone call. So I don't know how we are going to do that.
All right. Well, it looks like at this stage in the process, following the presser of the communications minister, we are all, including the technical experts left with more questions than answers. Let's hope that in the coming days, these questions will be answered. Until then, though, thank you very much, Maximo Sametogo and Selom Brantier, for your time with us
Thank
this
you very
morning.
much, as always.